As a professional involved in electricity delivery, the T&D World Podcast and tdworld.com is your definitive source for breaking news, industry updates, and more. We've got you covered from transmission to distribution and everything that affects the power grid. And now, on to today's episode.
Hello and welcome to T&D World Live Podcast. I am Jeff Postlethwaite, the managing editor for T&D World, a magazine and online. And we have a little bit of a different sort of a podcast today, but this guest, I was really interested in his story and I wanted to be here while he shares some of his unique and interesting work. We have Vladimir Abdelnour, who is an energy researcher from Arizona State University's Laboratory of Energy and Power Solutions, and he is here to tell us about how his his unique experience with crisis-driven resilience in his home country of Lebanon, has helped inform his views on AI-enabled grid modernization and sort of the utility of the future conversation that we have around here. Thank you so much for joining us, Vladimir.
Thank you, Jeff, for hosting me. It's a pleasure. We enjoyed our previous conversation and it's been lovely.
That's great to hear. So, yeah, you also have done some recent research on the effect of EV load growth at distribution transformers in the US. So maybe we can get into that a bit later. But your work, you said, sort of touched upon a trend in Lebanon where that country had a lot of growth in solar energy, sort of a solar revolution, especially rooftop solar. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And as you do, maybe you can inform us a little bit about the overall electricity picture in Lebanon.
100%. So, if you've ever been to Lebanon, which is a country in the Middle East, near Syria, you're gonna know that the electric grid is a disaster. The country came out of a civil war, 1975 to 1990, and the Ministry of Energy and Water couldn't provide enough electricity for the demand that was there. And in early 2010s, what we started to see was the blackouts were consuming more than 50% of the day. So you have 12 hours with no electricity. And this is when neighborhood diesel generators became de facto a de facto phenomenon. So neighborhood diesel generators started showing in every neighborhood, in every village, and they were either owned by the municipality or owned by street entrepreneurs. That's what I love to call them. They're just people that saw an opportunity, purchased the generator, put together a mini grid and gave people electricity when the industry couldn't provide it. So this was the situation from early 2010 till 2022. But in 2022, what happened was due to the economic crisis that happened in the country, subsidies were removed off of fuel. Overnight, electricity prices tripled, so the subsidies were around 66% of all fuel imported to Lebanon. And now that's a real pain to everybody's pockets and to the businesses there. And what we saw is a hypermarket of solar, and this is where my journey started. I graduated as an electrical engineer from a Lebanese American university with a scholarship, and I started directly working with solar companies. And throughout my journey, we were working in this hypermarket. I was responsible for the sales and the engineering side of the job, and then I would hand over the engineering files to the construction team that installed the solar for rooftop. But one interesting fact is, in less than 16 months, the whole country installed 30% of its demand from rooftop solar, both commercial, industrial, and residential. So it's very interesting how energy economics play out in the installation of renewable energy.
And by hypermarket, you're sort of referring to the glut of cheaper solar panels from China. Is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
So a hypermarket by definition is the market that has so much demand that it is an order of a magnitude bigger than the supply. So basically, we're seeing 10x what the supply was there in terms of companies that can actually build rooftop solar at the professional engineering level. So there were mainly three big companies: Nova Energia, which was the company I'm working with at the time, and there was Earth Technologies and Green Essence. These were the biggest companies that were installing basically for everyone in the whole country. Uh, and it was a big market at the time. So that's the story of what happened in Lebanon. The underlying reasons um, can be a podcast by themselves, but this is the main story.
True. Yeah. One thing I was wondering about was financing. With the collapse of the Lebanese pound and the hyperinflation, how was financing secured? Was there like maybe a community solar model, or who was how was this? How did this work on in practical terms on the ground there?
Of course, that's a very interesting question, by the way. So the first batch of installations was mainly residential customers. These were people that had some extra savings and cash, and when the banking system failed, they realized that they need to provide their own electricity in a way, and the situation is going to the worst. So what they did is they used this money to install a solar system on their homes and provide themselves with their own electricity, and they completely disconnected from any form of grid, whether the neighborhood diesel or the national grid. Uh, Businesses were very reluctant at the beginning. They didn't understand the business model. They didn't know the suppliers, like my company. So they waited for another year. And the next year in 2023, this is where we saw this surge of commercial and industrial customers. What happened in this phase is these companies realized that installing batteries is really expensive. So what they opted for is what we call the solar diesel hybrid. Basically, this is a system whereby you use solar to decrease your fuel consumption during the day, uh, and you need to have a diesel generator and a solar system, both coordinated by a system controller. And we were the pioneers in this, and we installed it for many of the commercial and industrial institutions. This was the best low capex savings until they accumulate enough savings and they purchase their own batteries and they go completely off grid. That was the very interesting scenario. The first batches were people that had savings on the sides, so there was no loans and no financing mechanisms. But then we realized that demand was slowing down. The rich companies have already installed solar. There is still a demand signal from other companies. This is where we started doing financing mechanisms. We install solar, you accumulate savings, you pay us half the savings for, let's say, 2 years until you return the cost of the system. And there were many financing mechanisms that many companies implemented with their solar suppliers.
How maybe are things different in an urban center like Beirut versus some of the more remote areas? I'm always curious about how, things energy projects get off the ground, how they're different in different geographical areas.
It's a great question. So in rural areas, it's a fairly low density of population, and there's extra space that you can use. So if you're going to a factory, you can just simply use the roof. But if you're going to the commercial customers, then it becomes tricky because they have apartments and buildings or skyscrapers. And then in these buildings, there are residents and there are other commercial entities there. Uh, who owns the roof? Who has the access to this roof to install the solar? It becomes a really tricky situation. And this is where we had to actually come up with energy management mechanism by installing meters. And installing one integrated system on the roof instead of having different companies uh, or different uh, commercial institutions going to different uh, solar supply companies, and each of them creating their own solar system on the roof. And then the roof is ugly, you have redundancies, and you don't have one uniform standard. So we used to, when we have a customer in a building, we used to approach the other customers and put them on board in such a way they divide the energy among themselves or the savings among themselves using an energy management system, uh, which is basically a set of smart meters connected together into one piece of software, whereby everybody has visibility and access to their finances that's coming from our solar system.
You described to me that Lebanon is a place where people, not institutions, can keep the lights on. So I guess I wanted to ask about how daily life is changing for people with greater access to electricity. How is that affecting everyone there?
Of course, of course. Just to point out one fact, Lebanon was always 100% electrified. What's happened was um, people are used to a standard of living in terms of energy per capita that's really close to their European countries. Now, there was corruption in the government, so people had to do their uh, own initiatives in each of the areas. And this is why I love to call these diesel generator owners street entrepreneurs. They were entrepreneurs. They saw an opportunity, and they provided electricity to their area and neighborhood. So sometimes it was the municipality, but usually it was just people with initiative that did this. And even when subsidies were removed, people uh, were the ones that started the solar revolution in the country. It wasn't any policy that the government chose that basically made the country install 30% clean energy. It's the people that did this initiative, and you can also see this happening across different sectors in the country. For example, telecommunication. People installed their own ISP providers in each neighborhood and in each village. So they do not depend on the government. And now with Starlink officially servicing Lebanon, I can imagine the whole country using Starlink for commercial purposes and installing their own their own telecommunication uh, in their own village or in their own neighborhood and give it to their neighbors. So in a way, the whole country is decentralized, and electricity is just one facet of it.
Interesting. Well, some of your work had you conducting electrical site surveys with drones and monitoring systems. Is that a tricky thing to do on the ground in Lebanon? How did I mean, there's been, I guess, refugees, a lot of people fleeing war, things like that. Can you give us an idea of how that was going?
Yes. So first of all, Lebanon can be divided into different areas and geographies. There were areas that had ongoing wars and other areas that had business as usual. So where I was operating, it was business as usual. Of course, it is one economy, and the whole economy was affected by the wars that happened and the refugees that came from Syria. But about flying drones and doing site visits, uh, there was never actually any problem. I guess the only problem would be bureaucracy. So rather than having an online application sent to the aeronautical administration that would give you the permit to fly your drone, you had to do it through pen and paper, go to the offices over there, get approval, then go fly your drone. So it was very bureaucratic, very slow, but there was no direct problems or anybody stopping you, especially in the areas where normal business activity was continuing and it was not affected by the war. Uh, and 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 when we had projects in the other areas, we would discuss with the local authorities that we will fly a drone probably 2 weeks ahead of time to make sure that it doesn't conflict or cause any security issues.
Right. You also had founded a company called Tecatcom. Can you tell me what the story was getting started with that?
100%. So working in the solar industry, I realized that there's something missing. There's a gap that's happening, and the first time I saw it is when I saw the load profiles of our customers. There's a huge gap in solar curtailed. So people or residential customers would basically install rooftop solar, disconnect from the grid, charge their batteries by 9 a.m., and then the rest of the day they're curtailing their solar capacity because there's no net metering and you can't sell your electricity to everyone. So it was a big issue. Then commercial and industrial customers also installed solar, and they were also facing the same issue. If there is no demand to run the factory today, I'm curtailing my solar production with nowhere to sell it. What would you do in this case? So at the time, I was really technologically savvy. I was really excited about blockchain. So we created a peer-to-peer energy trading algorithm on a smart blockchain through a smart contract. And we went to municipalities and we pitched to them the idea that we wanted to do this. However, we ran into two obstacles. We realized that, first of all, blockchain is too complex for the normal person. You can imagine that over here in the US, you don't worry about electricity. You don't think that uh, I'm coming back home, there might be no hot water because there is no electricity. You don't worry about this. And people want this convenience of not worrying about electricity and being able to afford their bill. So they didn't care about blockchain or peer-to-peer energy trading at all. And the next thing I realized is municipalities that I thought would take the initiative and expand their decentralized governance didn't have the jurisdiction and didn't have the money, even if they had the jurisdiction. Um, After I learned these lessons, I pivoted towards another customer, which was the private mini grids, the street entrepreneurs, the folks that are incentivized by profit. They want to provide electricity and they want to provide it cheaply at a lower cost to make more profits and to provide a better service for their customers. So basically, what we did is we took the hardware and the software we created, we transformed it into an energy management system for a microgrid. And now we have real-time reading of both the load and the supply side of everything that's happening. And we were able to solve a lot of problems for the diesel generator owners or the street entrepreneurs. I can name three on the top of my head. Number one is we figured that there was a lot of energy theft happening. People wanted cheap electricity, diesel generators were expensive, but they can't live with the electricity. What would they do? They would steal electricity. But since we're monitoring the load side using smart energy meters and we're monitoring the generation side in real time, we can know where exactly the theft is happening, on which line, on which cable the theft is happening, and how much is it. That's one big unlock. The second big unlock is automated billing. Before our system was installed, usually an employee of this entrepreneur would come knock at your door and request the bill every end of the month, and it was a very annoying process, something that again we're very accustomed to in the US and in Europe. You get the bill through the phone and you pay it through the bank. So we facilitated this process. Uh, and I think the third most important improvement we were able to do was having a dynamic tariff or a time of use tariff. We can charge higher for electricity during the night, higher than the electricity during the day. That would incentivize people to use electricity or change their behavior towards electricity in certain hours. And this was really a great benefit because now the mini grid can absorb the extra solar being curtailed. And then if you raise the or decrease the prices, you can incentivize people to use electricity during that time. So basically, it was a major unlock to combine these systems together. And yeah, that was my company in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, speaking of microgrids and time of use and things like that, you're now working in systems engineering at Arizona State's LEAPS Lab, which is Laboratory of Energy and Power Solutions, working and studying on AI for microgrids, digital twins, substation load forecasting. So, can you tell us a little bit about your work there?
Yes, so I immigrated to the US uh, January 2024, and I started my PhD process with LEAPS, the Laboratory of Energy and Power Solutions. Now, this is one of the bigger labs at ASU. We are home to more than 45 students every semester. Uh, Last semester, we graduated 17 of them. We have mobilized funding of around $335 million across the 10 years we were serving at ASU. And we do everything from national studies to municipal level studies.
You've done some recent research on the effect of EV load growth and distribution transformers in the US. So I was wondering, is it true that EVs could put some added strain on transformers? And if so, how could this be accounted for? Just walk us through that a little.
Yes. First, let's lay out some facts about our grid. So, first of all, we're expecting to add 290 terawatt hours of energy annually. The US currently consumes 4,000 terawatt hours annually, and this is 7% more energy annually for the biggest economy on earth, and that's massive. So there is demand. This demand is driven by AI data centers and by EVs, and we saw this trend starting to pick up in the early 2020s. Now, the next thing we know about the grid, which is on the supply side of the grid, is there is a huge gridlock, both in the generation and in the distribution. On the generation side, power plants are stuck in the queue. There are 1,400 gigawatts worth of power plants that are waiting for permits to be built, and that's basically more than what we need, but we don't have permits for them. We don't know how they're going to affect the grid. And on the distribution side, more than 55% of the transformers across the US are older than 33 years old, and their design lifetime is 20 to 30 years. So most of our transformers in the US are being serviced much more and longer than their designed lifetime. Um, can we
And
replace those transformers?
yeah, not
You
only
might
that,
ask.
but it's becoming very difficult to replace these. The wait times are getting longer and longer with some of the supply chain and manufacturing challenges in North America.
That 100%, 100%. What a transform usually you would request a transformer, you would get it in the next 2 months. Now the lead times are 2 to 3 years. Prices are 4x to 9x what they were 5 years ago. So transformers are becoming as a very, very scarce commodity that the grid actually needs but can't have. And when we look at EV adoption historically, what we realize is that certain counties or certain neighborhood and areas have a much higher adoption rate than others. So if we look at the map, and I can send you one, you're going to see that in California and in Colorado, there are certain counties that achieved around 30 to 40% EV adoption, where the rest of the US counties are really slow. And they haven't picked up to speed. So what we do is we basically want to answer the question, which substations should be upgraded first because of EV adoption? Obviously, the ones where the adoption is faster and higher. These are the substations we need to upgrade first because they're stressed more, there's more load on them. but how do we know where this adoption is going to happen? My research paper answers these questions. We use socioeconomic factors that are well quantified, so they're not uh, they're not factors we created. They're factors that are really clear, quantifiable in the US, and yeah, and we use them, we model, and we find where every substation is stressed and in which year it is stressed to be replaced.
Okay, well, I hope this doesn't catch you off guard, this question, but I was curious, where do you think your work might take you next, once your studies are complete and seems like there's a lot of places you could go with this.
Yes, I'm gonna talk about a project we're doing, and I think this is where I'm gonna continue my work post graduation. So one project that we're working on is AI for microgrid design. What we're building is an app that would basically make the microgrid designer 10x more productive by having different AI solutions or AI agents work with you. And we know that in order to electrify everybody on Earth, we need 210,000 mini grids. Currently, we have 19,000 mini grids. That's much less than we need to have global energy access. And we know that design times for mini grids take 1 to 4 months. So how can we design mini grids faster? Luckily, we have AI and the era of intelligence to help us. So one amazing app that we're building is AI for microgrid design that we're currently using at the lab, which basically allows you to design a mini grid from scratch for any site on Earth to fully verifiable engineering documents. And I think we're gonna commercialize this product post graduation and potentially spin off a startup from the lab.
Interesting. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on that. And that is about the time that we have right now. But I want to thank you, Vladimir, for bringing your skills and know-how to the United States to help with some of our power grid challenges. I appreciate you for that, and I appreciate you coming to join us here at T&D World Live Podcast. And if any of you out there have work that you're doing that you want to highlight or that you think might be enlightening to our listening audience, I want to encourage you to drop us a line, reach out to us. We're always glad to have people who are doing interesting work here to talk to y'all. So thanks again, Vladimir, and thanks to y'all for listening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you again. Well, have a good one, everyone.
Thanks again for listening to today's podcast, produced by Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B. To hear the latest information for power delivery professionals and industry best practices, subscribe to T&D World Podcast and visit our website, tdworld.com, where you can find insightful articles and sign up for our free daily newsletter.